In Webster, it's just different, and I love it. So I'm glad I'm here. So we opened our store here in Webster around 2017, and we deal primarily in jewelry, coins, collectibles, antiques, what we call pop culture items. Pop culture is basically a term that refers to things that are popular in culture today, and that's kind of what we deal in. It could be anything from old toys, comic books, things that people remember when they were kids, certain pieces of jewelry from certain time periods. Anything that's just relevant or popular that people would be interested in today. So antiques is kind of a unique business these days. It's not like what you see on Antiques Roadshow from years past, where people bring in like roll-top desks and old pieces of wood furniture that people think are going to be worth a fortune. Nowadays, it's really smalls. It's advertising items. It's old pocket watches. Just historic memorabilia that people actually remember and hits them in a certain way. So we love doing this. We ask people to bring things up, and we try to do some on-the-spot research and actually give some prices and appraisals for certain pieces that you may have. If not, we can just sit here and just talk about kind of what we do and give you a little bit of a history about how things work today in the antiques business and the collectibles business. And we also talk about precious metals, which are a great investment nowadays. Gold hit an all-time high on Friday. Silver is pretty much at an all-time high right now. There's been 2 times in history it's been higher, but it was only for a brief moment. One was back around 1980 when the Hunt brothers basically manipulated the market. Silver jumped up to about $50 an ounce. It happened again during the housing crisis around 2011 when the economy became very uncertain and everybody invested into silver. Again, it was manipulated and came right back down. Right now what we're seeing is a nice steady increase. It's at around $33 an ounce right now, and analysts are saying it's going to hit $40, $50 by the end of next year. So it's a great investment, and that's a big part of our business, and that's what we do is buy and sell bullion, and we encourage people to get into it. And we also encourage young people to start off in coin collections and things of that nature as well. So so I don't know if anybody brought anything today, or if anybody really wants to talk about anything specific, but there's a huge number of genres that fit into the antiques and collectibles category. I mean, you can talk about art, and it's a whole business in itself. Doesn't mean I'm an expert on art, just means that I know a little bit about it, and I can help out if somebody has questions about it. My main focus, my main expertise is old toys, comic books, advertising items, that sort of stuff. So,
like Hess trucks?
Hess trucks, unfortunately, are not too popular. See, what'll make an old toy collectible today is that it was made to be played with. You take an action figure from Star Wars out of the package in 1977, you're going to play with it. You're going to break the leg off. You're going to do this or that to it. To find that today still in the original package, it's worth thousands of dollars. Hess trucks were made to be collected. Everybody kept them in the boxes. Very few people played with them. So, they're still in excellent condition. All the ones that were manufactured, most of them are still around these days. It kind of hurts the value a little bit. So Hess trucks are not really the top of the line as far as collectibles go.
Not Beanie Babies.
Same thing. Beanie Babies were also made to be held, and I was actually in the business at the time in the 90s when the Beanie Baby craze hit. And people, as a matter of fact, we had friends who had an account with Hagedorn. You guys were one of the few people who had an account with Ty, which is the company that made Beanie Babies. Right. And your purchaser had a good friend of ours. They were tight, and they would sell those Beanie Babies to our friend who owned an antique shop, and they were retailing them out. I don't know, it's kind of a crazy story, but it was interesting. But again, those really dropped out. We come across collections all the time with bags of them. Very difficult to sell unless you find an error on the tag. That's what really makes them worth something. And that's a whole other, category on its own as well. Yeah.
I have a coin you can
Okay.
look at.
I'd love to. Usually what we do is after we talk, usually have people bring some stuff up and Okay, so these we get in all the time. Okay. This is actually called a Sacagawea dollar. It's called a Sacagawea dollar.
Yes.
So these are still minted by the U.S. Mint. So you can go into the banks and you can still get some rolls of these. There are some error coins that were minted with these, different rim dings, errors, extra letters, double stamps, but unfortunately they're usually just face value. So.
Well, my question is it a Cheerios coin? Because when they first minted those, they put them in Cheerios cereal.
The Sacagaweas?
Yes.
I wasn't even familiar with that. How funny. I had no idea that they did that. So they
Yeah,
were
me
putting
too.
$1 coins in Cheerios boxes
Yes.
around 2000.
So I can't
Okay.
tell if it has something to do with the tail feathers, but I have no idea.
See, I get that call all the time. People will call me up and say, I got this coin and I got this app. And I look on the app and it's worth $4,000. So I said, what is it? So it's a 1978 penny. I'm like, I don't know any 1978 pennies that are worth more. These apps out there are killing us, I'll tell you. These calls all the time. And I'll tell them, well, try another shop that may have more expertise in actual errors or, rim dings or markings. And they'll say, well, we called everybody. I mean, you're like our last resort. I'm like, I tell people that with stuff like this, and it's good advice, is join a Facebook group, okay?
Join what?
Are you on Facebook? Not on Facebook. Somebody surely must be on Facebook.
Oh, yes.
All right.
Oh, in Marketplace, you mean Facebook?
No, see, you can actually join groups on Facebook. And those groups are very helpful because it's a group of individuals who are interested in the same,
Oh.
you know,
And they'll buy
interest
it.
that you have, yeah. So you join the group, they're usually private, which is nice. And, sorry, I always talk fast, I apologize, so I'll try to slow down. But generally, you join a group, and you're sharing the same interests as other people, and these groups are private. So your friends and relatives won't see what you're saying within this group. You could take a photo of this, put it up in the group, say, hey, listen, I don't know if this is worth anything or not, I think it's an error, is it a Cheerios coin, whatever. You'll instantly get responses right away. Because these guys live for this, they're like, oh yeah, that's the Cheerios coin, it's worth $800, or no, that's just worth $1, sorry, yeah. And that's
8
usually,
cents.
yeah, and that's usually what we refer people
Okay.
with stuff like this. But yeah, we do see this a lot, and they are interesting, and they're nice, but to us, it's worth $1. It's still spendable. So,
Frank, I got a question about Corningware.
oh boy.
I know.
Glassware in China, my favorite.
The Corningware flower on design
Mhm.
on the side of a dish, blue, and eBay has it at 700.
See?
See? Yeah,
So-
right. So Etsy had this square dish with a top with the cornflower design for 400.
Okay.
So I'm wondering, is it real?
Usually what we see with markings on dishware, glassware, china, etc., through time as they originally started manufacturing this stuff, they would put certain markings and then
Right.
change that over a certain period. So people would say, well, the bumblebee marking or whatever, for example, that would be with a hummel.
Hummel.
Yeah. So if you see the certain marking, you know that that was made from 1920 to 1933, for example. Then they would change that hallmark or that marking at that time. So I guess that's what they're probably referring to. I'm not sure because I'm not
No,
familiar
this
with
has a
Corningware
new
in
design,
general.
everything is right.
Mhm.
And there's a stamp that says Corningware, and I think you're right. I think there's like a year.
It may just represent when
On
it
it.
first came out, which would, that
No,
era.
it's not new.
All right, all right, all right.
No, it's not a new one, because I
No,
bought
no,
it
no, no,
at
no.
a garage sale.
Yeah, no, it may represent when that originally came out. It's almost like a guide to say there's 4 different hallmarks they used over the years. That might be the first one they used.
Okay, what
That
are
might
they
make it
advertising
work.
on eBay then?
Well, you gotta look at sold listings, that's another big problem.
Oh, yeah, I
When you
know
look
that.
at, anybody can
Yeah.
ask anything they want for anything on eBay.
I know.
But to
Right.
see what it actually sells for, you gotta see it in green,
Right.
not red. So you hit sold, you go down the list, you look for the green sold listings, and that'll give you a reference of actually what something sold for, which is nice to see. And we use that as our reference when we list on eBay, and we know how to price things based on what it's sold for. So, that's another big thing with, a lot of times people see that show, the Antiques Roadshow, and someone will walk up with something, and they know exactly what it is. They know when it was made, and who made it, and how much it's worth, right? What you don't see is earlier in the day when everybody's on a line, they walk through and they look at everybody, hey, you, and you, come on over here, we want to see what you got. We're going to research it, and then we're going to invite you to come on the show when we air it, or when we film it. So, I mean, it's research, really. I mean, if you want to be in the antiques business, you just got to be patient, and you got to know how to research, and you have to have a love for research. And I do, and that's what I do. And I love to look things up and learn things, and I'll remember what I saw, and then the next time somebody asks me, I'll be able to give them an honest answer as to what it might be worth. But that's kind of how the process is, and it takes time, So,
How about old tools?
yeah, I mean,
Are they,
there's a good market for it.
is it?
We generally sell our old tools at the flea market. Don't ask me why. Maybe because it's an Avon, old farm country. I really don't know. But that's where we have our best luck selling old tools. And
Really?
the
At the
Avon
flea market?
Yep. Yeah, there's several levels of how we sell our stuff, all the way down to just basically, flea market I would say would be our lowest end. We do eBay, flea market, retail out of the store. We do high-end auctions if we have the right pieces. We'll do Amazon, eBay, Mercari, several different venues of selling. But flea market, I'd say, is an easy way to get rid of a lot of stuff that may not be worth a whole ton, but you can still move it to the right people. And tools kind of fall into that category. However, there are some really good tools out there, old Stanley tools, old planes, that can command hundreds of dollars, if not thousands. But it's really like finding a needle in a haystack.
I know.
Yeah. But they're fun, and they look great. And we have nice displays in our store of them just because they're so cool looking. You know, so.
I have
Yes.
a pocket watch.
Yeah.
Do you want to look at
Absolutely,
that?
sure, sure. We actually specialize in old pocket watches.
Well, I
we
don't
love
know
the
how
history
old
on
it
them.
is actually, but, and in reference to your cornflower, I was married in the early 70s, and that was the pattern of
Yeah,
this,
probably.
the wedding
Yeah.
presents and so forth, so.
Absolutely.
You got a lot of it?
So,
Actually, I do, because I still use it.
Yeah,
It's
no, it is good
But
stuff.
maybe I shouldn't if it's worth
Well,
something.
that's why I picked it up at the garage sale, then I saw $700.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah, right, exactly.
Yeah, maybe I shouldn't be using it, but.
So yeah, so this is what's called a gold-filled pocket watch. So gold-filled is kind of a fancy term for a thick gold plating. It's equivalent, so a carat of gold is a percentage, so for example, 14 karat gold is 58% pure. There's 42% other metals mixed in. With gold filled, it's equivalent to about 6 karat, which is about, say, maybe about 10% actual gold, which is just for the plating. It basically works out to be about $1.25 a gram as far as the value of gold filled. So your value is not going to be in the precious metals, it would be just in the movement and in the history and the fact that it's a watch. And somebody would buy it for its antiquity. This in particular is a Waltham. It's probably about 17 jewels, which is a lower end jewel. It does work. And the way you wind pocket watches, you don't crank them all clockwise, you kind of go back and forth. So if they wind back and forth both ways and neither way is stuck, pretty good chance that it's going to be a good working watch that's going to have a good movement and a good movement. You know, it's still going to work and take time pretty accurately. And this one is working. On average condition like this, without a front face, they're about 75 to 125. So nothing too valuable, but still worth better than just the gold weight and better than just a little old women's watch.
And you mentioned that gold is at the highest.
Absolutely.
Which is what?
2,700 and change on Friday, which is the
Wow.
highest it has ever been in the history of gold.
How
So
much is it?
2,700 and change, I think 2,720. Yeah.
Yeah, and can you address, like silver dollars and half
Absolutely.
dollars and so
Absolutely.
forth, just
Do that all the time,
kind of a general,
for sure.
what they might be worth?
Yeah, oh, sure. So, back in history, 1879 is when the American Morgan dollar came out, which is pretty popular, pretty common. People see it, it's got the pretty lady on it. They basically manufactured them all the way up to 1921. In 1921, they changed the design, they called it a peace dollar. That's kind of the lady with the horns almost on the head. They did that up until around 1935. Since 1935, there has not been a silver dollar out until 1986, when the Liberty dollar came out, which is basically a pure silver ounce, and they're called American Eagles. So they've been manufacturing American Eagles from 1986 up. Now there have been dollars out, but they're not silver, which were Eisenhower dollars, which came out around 1970, and they made those until, I'm not even sure, maybe around 73, 74, somewhere around there. And those are still what you had, I just saw in your keychain there. Those are worth $1. They're spendable. We take in a lot of them. We just take them to the bank. People love them. The bank loves them because they'll give them out to people who ask for them, but we can't really resell them for more than $1. So the silver dollars that you're probably talking about, and the most popular ones, were the ones that were manufactured from 1879, 1878 to around 1935. We take in quite a few of them, so they're fun, they're collectible, they're not too expensive, they're average about $25 to $30 a piece. And you know, you can trade them back and forth. Kids love them. A lot of guys collect them, get them slabbed, get them certified, graded, so you kind of have a set price on them. Yeah, they're fun coins. We love silver. It's one of our favorite things to buy. So, yeah. Yes.
How about cameos?
We do a lot with cameos. Actually, there's still quite a market for them. A lot of times they're edged in gold or silver again, and I keep mentioning the precious metals, but that's always a determining factor of the quality and the value.
Want to look?
Oh, sure, I'd be happy to, yeah. So this fancy machine right here is basically a X-ray machine, and it'll actually tell me what the content is of gold, silver, rings, copper, and it'll say whether or not things are actually gold or not, which is kind of nice. So, yeah, these are pretty. These are old. See, this is the kind of stuff that this show kind of brings out, and it's great. We love seeing the stuff come into our store. Even if we don't buy it or
You
not, we
let us
just love
go
to see
digging
it.
in our drawers.
I know, you have, and we just love, even if we don't buy it, we just love to see the stuff. So this one, in fact, is actually 10 karat gold. So I mean, you know, it's definitely a quality piece. It's not a lot of weight.
It's the outside, not the cameo that's of
Correct.
value.
Well, you know, the cameo is still going to have its value for its craftsmanship, for its antiquity, just, you know, just because it's a cool old antique piece, you know, and just people just love seeing it. But your gold is going to probably, unfortunately, exceed the value of the cameo itself. So, you know, it's probably 100 or 125 for something like this if we were to put it out in our store. So,
When you say cameo, is it always ivory?
not necessarily. Usually not.
What
Yeah.
else?
I mean, it just soapstone or
Could
who
be,
knows
okay.
what. Yeah, I mean, it's just various different materials
I
that
don't
make up.
think that one's ivory, is it?
Ivory, usually you could tell because it'll have little veins in it. Doesn't, that's not even a telltale sign, but this, no, definitely not. I'm not really sure. This one almost seems like it's I'm not really sure. But again, it's a nice old piece. Non-precious metal, maybe sterling silver at most, but sterling silver is only about 80 cents a gram, 90 cents a gram. So I mean, you know, something like that's $2 in weight. But for what it is, and again, you see this in like an antique shop or like a co-op down in 332, they got that big, huge antique place. You know, they sell these for $45, $55. Do they fly off the shelves? Not really, but they're still pretty cool. Oh, a nice cameo ring. Yeah. It's probably gonna fall right into that same category. It's a nice little collection of cameos, though. That's just copper or brass. So I think your best one here would definitely be
The little one.
the small one, the little gold one, yeah. And that's a decent little piece. The rest of them, you know, could be anywhere. And realistically, if you really want to turn in and get your money, they're $20 to $40 a piece. If you want to try to retail them out and really try to get the most you can on eBay and price them out at $50 to $75. So, but you know, it all depends on the buyer, and you got to find that right person, like anything else. But I certainly like them. I think they're great. So if
What
you ever
about
walk these into our
rose
shop,
gold?
we'd offer a couple
Oh.
$100. Yeah.
Okay.
So, there you go. Thank you. That's so cool to see.
Is this of value?
Yeah, these are about $75. Yeah, $75. So we usually buy them for about 40. But they're hard to polish. They take a lot of time to polish. Actually, one of the guys in Webster here.
What is
polished
that?
them. This is an old fire extinguisher.
What is it?
Fire extinguisher.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
You're right.
Yeah, the marshal here in Webster actually refinishes things. He came into our shop and
Nice.
was telling us about how we had to fix some things in our exits, and then said, if you ever need me to polish some of these, let me know. So, yeah. So these are fun. These are really nice. You asked about,
Yeah, rose gold.
yeah, rose gold is just basically other metals added with gold to give it that color. So
Got
again,
it.
if you got
Yeah,
14 karat
yeah.
gold, it's 58% pure, 42% other metals. Some of those metals will alter the color, and that's what will give it that rose gold appearance.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure exactly what metals those are, but yeah. Yeah.
Tom's got a question
Oh,
over there.
I'm sorry. Yes, sir.
I have a Lincoln cent collection that I started back when the earth was flat. And as a result, I've got some that are, I don't have the 1909
SVDB, right,
all that,
right.
but I do have some that are older that were still in circulation when I
Sure.
started it.
Sure.
But generally, I'm curious, is that a collectible coin?
Yeah, well, the Lincoln cents started in 1909. You know, your 1909 S and your SVDB are your two biggest coins in there. There's a couple key dates post 1909, 1914D, etc. What makes a collectible coin a key date is the fact that it was minted less, basically. And if you got those old blue books that we all unravel, remember we used to put the pennies in there?
Yeah.
They'll give the mintage underneath the penny. So they'll tell you how many were minted. I believe on an SVDB there was under 1 million. About 900,000 or so were minted. That's what makes it rare. So if you look and you see the lower numbers, you'll know that's more of a key date, a little harder to find. And that'll kind of give you your idea of values as it creeps up there based on how many were released. Like, for
Probably
example,
depends on circulation.
Exactly.
Or not circulation,
well,
but.
not circulation, but mintage.
How long they've been carried around in people's pockets.
That too, condition's a
Yeah.
big factor, absolutely. And a
Yeah,
big
great.
misconception is, I don't know if you guys have ever seen, but during the war in 1943, they only made them out of steel. So everything was copper, obviously, all US cents, until 1943 when they needed the copper for the war and they made them out of steel. However, that was the most minted coin in American history. So people think I got a steel penny, it's worth $1 million. It's worth about 2 cents. So it's one of those things where.
I've got all three of the mints of the 43 steel.
Oh, yeah, yep. But again, it's
Yeah.
a couple cents, yeah.
But they're actually almost look uncirculated.
And that's important because they are steel, so they're gonna corrode, they're gonna rust. They're gonna do all kinds of stuff. So keeping them in nice condition is important.
Over the years, yeah.
Yep.
About
Yep.
$2 of
There's
those.
a lady in
Yes, ma'am.
I have a penny, I didn't bring it with me because I didn't know you were having this today,
Sure.
but it has the initials on the penny, VBB.
VDB.
Yeah, that.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
that's a 1909. It's not an S probably.
It's not an S.
So it's just a 1909 VDB. Now, you're gonna ask me what VDB stands for, and I'm not gonna be able to answer because you know what? I don't really know. I believe, I'm not even sure. But the VDB penny is worth, the 09 in average condition is about $10 to $15.
Ah.
It's the S is the one you need. Yeah, it's a pretty common minted penny, but it's really cool. And I'd love to see those little letters down at the bottom. When we were kids and my dad would bring home boxes of pennies for us to go through, we'd always look for those VDBs. We'd always find one in an unsearched bag, and it was like the highlight of our day. They were worth a few bucks then, they're worth 10 to 15 now. So, but if you find that S with the VDB on the bottom, that's where the big money is, like you were saying.
Yeah, Mr. D. Grunner on that back side.
You got it.
Yeah.
There you go. Yes, you're right. And I knew that. But I didn't.
I told you, I
I didn't
didn't
recall it.
see
Very
your-
good. Yes. Mr. D. Grunner. Yes, sir.
You mentioned toys.
Yes.
Is there a market for a maybe 3-4 inch long model of a World War I tank that was made, I think, during the World War?
Yep.
My father-in-law's toy. He
Sure.
died in '93, early in the century.
Yep.
It has movable turrets,
Mhm.
and the thing goes around. It's about that.
Tan in color.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I've had a lot of experience with World War II era toys. And one thing, just
I
to give
think
you an
this was
idea.
World War I.
World War I era. Wow. Okay.
I think so.
Well, with toys in general, what makes them collectible nowadays is that people remember them as kids. So when we get into these, I love old tin toys myself. Of course, I wasn't around in the 40s when these tin toys were made.
This is wooden.
Right, I understand, definitely. But as just for an example, people remember things they had as kids, and that's why they buy them back. And their demand in buying them back is what raises the price. There's not a lot of guys your age buying back toys they had when they were kids. There's a lot of guys my age doing it. So I'm 52. Back in '77, when I was getting Star Wars figures, a lot of guys my age have money now, and they're buying stuff back they had as kids. And that's what's cranking up the value and making those things worth a fortune. Unfortunately, because even though what you have is probably 1,000,000 times harder to find than a Star Wars figure, it's probably going to be worth significantly less because the demand is just not there for stuff like that.
It's a
I get-
museum piece.
Yeah, you got a few guys like me out there that would love stuff like that. I just bought a big World War II era Mark's tin collection of old figures, tanks, a whole bunch of stuff. I love it. I won't even sell it. I love it. But there's not a lot of guys like me out there that are buying that sort of stuff. If I have a lot of pressed steel and tin in my store, it really doesn't sell. It's there for show, which is fine. I love it. If somebody really wants to buy it, I'll quote them a price, but for the most part, we don't move too much, do we, Jay? So to give you an example of the value of something like that, it could be $25, $50, $75, find the right person, depends on condition, but I mean, as far as demand goes, it's not quite there like it used to be. But I would love the opportunity to own it, so.
Any market for sterling silverware?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, silver's
yeah.
$33 an ounce right now, and sterling is 92.5% pure, so we base it on that, that purity, and offer 80% accordingly. So yeah, it's definitely a valuable set right now, if it is in fact sterling, but by law, it would have to have been marked sterling. So if you see that sterling mark, that's when you know you got the real thing.
This is Tiffany sterling.
That's even better. Anything with a Tiffany name is going to be worth significantly more, so that's going to be a real nice set for sure. We've seen some Tiffany sets. We've had one come in the shop. Melt-wise was about $1,000. Retail value-wise was about $3,500. We put it on eBay. We let it sit there for almost a year at $3,500. It didn't sell. I did actually end up melting it down, to be honest with you, just because it sat there for so long. But you'll always, if you find the right person for Tiffany, man, there's a lot of collectors out there that love Tiffany. So that's a beautiful set, by the way, for sure. Definitely. So, yes.
I have a little humble lady.
And my daughter years ago had a little basket, broke the basket.
Mhm.
So I wouldn't think that is worth anything much.
Well, when you have some damage, obviously, that's gonna affect the value, of course. But Hummels in general, I mean, they were very expensive to buy back in the 70s, 80s, when they were very popular. They're not quite as collectible today, unfortunately. And
But
again,
if you have them, you can retire.
yeah, that's what they said back in the day.
That was way
Yeah.
back.
Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah, we get a lot of, we have a lot of clients who do estate sales, and they come to us to help them price out some things. And boy, we hear stories after stories about Hummels and how they're just not selling well, and, you know, they end up at the end of the sale a lot of times, unfortunately, so,
Thank you.
yeah. But you know what, that's the thing about, you know, someone gave it to you and get it repaired and keep it in the family and hand it down, that's the important thing about stuff like that. Precious moments are also made to be collected, they're made to be displayed, they're made to be stored, and they're always in excellent condition. And I mean, they usually retain 75% of their original purchase value, but they're not really much more than what you originally paid for them, and I don't know if that's ever gonna change, because they're always gonna be out there. So, same thing with like collector plates, different things like that. It's very common to see those things have a tough time even getting back to the original value what you paid, so, yeah.
What about Hall's teapots?
I love Hull in
Yeah.
particular. I mean, you know, it's very similar to, yeah, I mean, it's a great pottery. It's very pretty, it's attractive, the colors are nice and smooth, and they blend nice. I mean, they definitely as a collectible name. Teapots in general, not too hot, but Hull is a good name. Yeah, so it depends on which one you have, the colors, the condition, the size, you know, a lot of factors. But I mean, we see Hull stuff, you know, $50, $75, $100 for a little teapot. Yeah, definitely.
How about foreign coins? I see a lot of advertisement for them.
Yep.
You know, from England and China and
Yep.
different places. They're
Yep.
coming out with different series.
Absolutely. So foreign coins are, I keep mentioning that there's genres to this business that would be an entire business on their own. Stamps, for example, or artwork, for an example. You could spend your entire life researching and learning about artwork, or researching and learning about stamps. Foreign coins is like a whole nother world compared to American coins. What we generally look for and what we find in foreign coins, for the most part, 95% of the time, you look for that precious metal content. A lot of times they're made out of silver in different purities over time, anywhere from 40% all the way to 90%. You can kind of separate, sort, and look for that older stuff with the precious metal silver content. That's really where your value is usually going to be, unless you got something super old that's slabbed and notated as such. That's 99% of the time what we see is we look for the silver.
What does slabbed?
When I use the term slabbed, that's a term used for authenticating and grading a coin. So you can send it to an authenticating company. They'll grade it, they'll put it in a plastic container, and they'll serial number it, so you can't get it out of that container unless you were to break it. That's what we consider to be a slabbed coin. It's kind of set in stone. You can look up that price. Whatever price that's set at with that grade corresponding is what you can expect to get for it 100%. So it kind of secures the pricing and authentication.
Is that the same thing like with baseball?
You got it.
cards?
Yep, PSA is a grading company for baseball cards. Once they get it in that certification case, you know what you're going to get for it 100%. Same thing with comic books. Comic books has a company called Comics Guarantee Corporation, CGC, and when we slab a comic book, it's set in price. You can look that up on a GPA, which is a compilation of historical sales for that particular comic in that grade, and you can 100% fully expect to get that money. So the grading has really changed the industry a lot over the past 20 years.
How about comic art?
Comic book art? Oh,
Original
fantastic.
comic art.
The best thing about original comic art is that there's only one of them, which is great. Because when you got a cover or a page, there's only one page ever originally written of that comic book. So that's fantastic, and any original art is going to be worth good money, especially from the 80s and before.
I have a couple, not Stan Lee or.
Right, yeah, but that'd be nice.
As a matter of fact, it's Stan Glansman, I don't know if you know that.
Stan Lance. Marvel or DC?
Good question.
Yeah, you'd have
They're old.
Yeah.
It's, reason I picked them up is they were comics that I was reading as a kid.
Okay.
Yeah.
And they have this,
See, nostalgia.
ghost tank.
Oh, so you got some earlier artistry. So are they larger pieces, larger? Okay, yeah. You should
And
bring
I
them into
have-
our shop and check. We'll check them out for you.
I have the comics that,
The actual comics that had that page.
Yeah.
Yeah.
they're from the early 80s.
Yeah. Okay. Early '80s stuff. Yeah, I'd have to see what company made it, I'm not
GI,
familiar.
GI something.
GI Combat?
Yeah, I think it
Yeah.
is, yeah.
Yeah, so comic books are one of my things. We owned a comic book store back in the 90s, and that's one of my passions. I love comics. We've had pretty much everything you can imagine over the years bought and sold, aside from, Action Number 1, which is the very first appearance of Superman. Never see one of those, there's only about 50 in existence. There was one floating around Rochester, actually, and he ended up selling it to a company locally. That company sold it through Heritage, it did over $1 million. And that was just a couple years ago, yeah. So it was a pretty interesting story, but comics are great, and they're a lot of fun, and the history behind comics is crazy. You mentioned Stan Lee. Stan Lee's kind of the guy that created Spider-Man. Him and a guy named Jack Kirby, who was the artist, and or Steve Ditko was the artist, actually. And they kind of created this character Spider-Man, and it just took off from there, and that's what kind of earthed the whole Marvel universe, which you see nowadays, and you guys might not watch the movies, but maybe your kids, I don't know. X-Men, Spider-Man, Fantastic Four, Daredevil, all those characters that you hear about and that Disney owns nowadays. So,
How about GI Joes?
GI Joes are huge. I'm a big collector myself. They're very popular.
My son has
Yep.
a very, very complete set of.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. So GI Joes started around 1964. They were the 12-inch figures. They went to about 1978, and then they reintroduced them in '83 as 3 3/4-inch figures. So I'm not sure which ones he has,
He's
but
got the short ones,
yeah, still great. They're fantastic. They're even more popular because the older ones, again, running victim of that, remembering what you had as a kid, and those guys aren't buying those GI Joes back, but the younger guys are buying those 3 3/4-inch figures. They're very collectible.
He started out actually with the number 1.
Oh, the first, you mean the
Yeah.
first issue, 1983,
Yeah.
82?
Oh, wow.
And then, that didn't do well, so they did something, I don't know, I forgot now what it was, but in the meantime, they produced less number 2s than they did.
That happens quite often because they do this
Meantime,
test.
the
Yeah.
figures came out,
Yeah.
and the number 2 was actually the more valuable
Yeah.
of the comics.
That happens quite often. It depends on which character's introduced or whatnot, so, yeah. Yeah. So your son, he collects the comic books, the G.I. Joe comics, or the actual figures? Or both?
Yes.
Okay, probably all of the above.
He's got more of the comics
Yeah.
than he does of the figures, but,
Gotcha.
no, he was buying those, and we were buying them, Christmas gifts.
Sure.
All that stuff when they first came out,
Huh?
well, it would have been late 70s.
That's fantastic, yeah. Good value in that stuff.
What about the Toy Story?
All right, you all right?
Okay,
All right.
thank you.